My name is Kaida Daniera, and I am 27 years old. And I consider myself to be lawful good. I have a scar on the right side of my face, starting in the middle of my cheek and ending mid-forehead. On my left hand, my ring and my pinky finger were blown off in an explosion that killed me, leaving only my last knuckles. I was born in the 3rd District of the Astani Empire, a little outpost called Kalna. My parents are Rosinia and Marin, my mother and father. I have an older and younger siblings, Alora, my older sister, and Ryo, my little brother. I follow the angel Sarenrae, as my mother and sister did. My young childhood could have almost been considered peaceful. Well, as peaceful as the 3rd District could be. Our little outpost was essentially just a small clearing in the woods, and my mother was the healer of it, training my older sister and I in the ways, though I would say my sister took to it more. And my father, he was the head of the outpost. He led most of the raids against the nearby Orcish tribe that often provoked us. He trained my little brother in the ways of war as well. I mostly just spent my long hours watching the blacksmith's son make swords. When I was 19, my mother and sister left for the 1st District to train my older sister in the ways of healing. Not long after, the Orcish tribe attacked, and my father and my brother were killed in the conflict. They took me and held me prisoner for, I don't even remember for how long, until one of the members of the tribe, Rolf, he and a druid named Mariella, saved me, and we fled to the 1st District where we could never be caught by the tribe. I joined a church there and fell into place, but only healing was never my calling. So I met a woman named Ari, who worked in the warrior sect, and she trained me. But when I was discovered, I was forced to go on an expedition with my mentor Zavari, who had been having visions of something going wrong in the Aeonics. During our travels there, the airship exploded, and in the process of trying to get everybody down from the airship, I was caught, and now I'm dead.
My name is Demas Andreas. I usually go by Demas, but some of my closer friends and loved ones call me D. I'm in my mid-40s, and I've done a lot of things on this mortal plane. I'm lawful neutral. I stick to my moral code, protecting the people that I love. Because of the fireball that I died in, I have some thick burns across my face and upper body. I grew up in an outpost in the Oracle province called Jakaba. Some might know it as the City of Serpents. I was raised by my single mom. I had one friend, and my fate was sealed there. I learned when my mom was on her deathbed that Dad didn't leave when Mom was pregnant, but he was brutally murdered. I don't have any siblings. I was brought up in a completely normal childhood for the outpost. Mom always strived to ensure that I had at least the necessities, even if she couldn't provide us luxury. As for religion, I studied texts that are provided to me by my mentor about the Church of Ifrit, and I definitely believe in heaven and hell and the angels and the demons. But I'd rather use that information that I gain in order to avenge my mom against the realm of hell during my lifetime, as well as to avenge my wife and children once I return. I didn't have a terribly traumatic childhood, if only a bit sad. Dad supposedly left when Mom was pregnant, and so he wasn't around. Mom did everything she could to make sure I was never without. And I knew she cared a lot about me. Unfortunately, my tiefling heritage did lead to some social struggles. I was often ridiculed by the other children of Jakova for my horns and my hellish relation, calling me names to my face and spreading vicious rumors and lies about who I was and what my home life was, especially in regards to Dad leaving. There was one exception, which was a beautiful half-orc girl about my age named Olive. She regularly stand up for me against the other kids, often getting in fights with them on my behalf and consistently spending time with me in a gentle and caring manner. We became really close friends over the course of our childhood. When I was about 15, Mom got ill, and we very quickly realized she was on her deathbed. While I spent my days caring for her, wiping her forehead at her bedside with the damp cloth to hold off the fever, she told me Dad didn't leave of his own accord. Instead, she had done something awful. I'd rather not get into the details of that right now. But she did tell me that that's how she knew she wasn't going to heaven. Even though she had spent the rest of her life trying to reconcile that act. As soon as she told me that, I left the house, seeking anything to save Mom's soul. I was distraught and wandering the desert when I stumbled on an old tome that said I could have whatever my heart desires if only I follow the instructions written within. In all of my exhaustion and despair, I jumped at the opportunity without reading the consequences. In doing so, I did make a pact with the realm of hell. Mom would go to heaven at the time of her passing, and I would have warlock powers, and in exchange, the realm of hell would receive the soul of my eldest child. No negotiations, no exchanges. I accepted the terms, vowing never to have children, thinking somehow I could outsmart the realm of hell. And a delicate, faint pattern appeared on my hand. I ran home to Mom to tell her the good news, but by the time I got there, she was already gone. Unsure of how long she'd been gone, I sought out Olive to help bury her nearby in search of comfort. Finding that comfort that I desperately needed in Olive, I spent the next few years going about my life as normally as possible, and we grew close. I began using that warlock magic to defend Jakova from attacking creatures, though not telling anyone that I was the person providing the protection. After a few years, I was approached by, a person. He was with the Church of Efreet, and he recognized the markings on my hand and introduced himself. His name was Dakotam Longtank, and he would like to provide me with training to help me grow as a warlock, to increase my strength and power. I absolutely leapt at the opportunity to learn how to better wield these powers, finally finding someone that understood what I was going through. Our bargain was that Dakotam would provide me with training and information, and in exchange, I would do errands of sorts for Dakotam. I was looking for work at all times, being like most of the people in the 2nd and 3rd districts. Found that this was a really good opportunity for me to be able to provide the life that Olive deserved. Over the next few years, I worked really closely with Dakotam, building my skills and doing errands of a less than savory nature. Ones that would obviously not be becoming of an acolyte. Early in our work together, Dakotam told me that something had gone terribly wrong when making my pact with the realm of hell, and that Mother was not saved. That Dakotam had deep knowledge of hell and connections that would provide him with that information. I was pretty disappointed, but I knew I still had my warlock powers, so I kept on. In the meantime, Olive and I got married, and on one of our expeditions that we were on for Dakotam in the wildlands, we ran across two really small elven children, like 3 and 5 years old is what we estimated they were at. They couldn't keep count that young. We also couldn't find their parents, and they couldn't remember where they'd come from. So we took them in. We couldn't let them die in the wilderness like that. Liam and Lucy. We vowed to raise them as our own. A few years later, though, tragedy struck again. I didn't realize that Dakotam had been lying this whole time. And I didn't realize right away whenever Olive and the kids. Nevertheless, in a rage, I made my way to Dakotam's shack to confront him. And I was extremely distraught. I tried to throw a fireball. It was big enough. My emotions were too much. That was the end of me. And here we are today.
My name is Zizi Malhayas. I am 18 years old. I am fairly young and don't have much life experience. I lean towards a chaotic neutral. After serving the kingdom and my family for so many years, my main priority is myself and my thirst for adventure. I have 2 very distinct scars on my chest that were delivered to me in my last moments, and a scar over my heart. I was born in the Aspero domain in the House of Shields. My father was the captain of the Kingdom Guard, and my mother was a silk merchant that traveled to Aspero when she was very young. I was raised with my 7 brothers, some young and some older. I was very close with most of my brothers and parents, and we spent a lot of time together. I focused mostly on training and honing my skills as a fighter. But I was taught Catholicism by my mother, and I do revere the value of the soul when things get difficult. I was raised in the midst of a Saxon desert, a bright, young-eyed child fighting an oncoming opponent. I was quick, my bare feet digging into the stones, my skin, hair covered in sand and sweat. A sparring match between my siblings. And today, Zizi Mulhayas, the only daughter of Captain Mulhayas of the House of Shields, would be the victor. I was born under the hot desert sun, the only girl in a house of 8. I spent my days learning to be a strong and lethal fighter. In the cool of the night, I was taught the ways of the soul by my mother. But when the training was done, in the blazing light of a setting sun, I dreamed of adventure. At the age of 16, I was engaged to a man named Malachi, a very serious and deadly man. I didn't mind the marriage. It was an honor to serve my family. But one night, at a dinner party, my younger brother Varys was up to his usual mischievous tricks, and he launched a surprise attack on me, coming out of the curtains with his dagger. There was no time to react. Malachi swung instinctively. the young boy sliding through a pool of his own blood across the floor. The large, stoic Yonti sat back in his chair. He had no concern for the young boy he had just downed with one swing. Rage boiled inside my chest. I held my brother and screamed and cried and launched myself at Malachi, but was held back by my father. I was told that the marriage would continue. I would not accept this. I would never marry that man. I challenged him in the Colosseum. He refused to strike me, but I was relentless. He was becoming fatigued, blocking slash after rage-filled slash, the dust floating around the arena. I positioned my feet and readied another charge. With a fury of splashes, the Colosseum fell silent, and I slumped over. There was blood all over my chest, 2 large gashes streaking down my body. I fell to my knees, and my face hit the dirt. I was defeated. He called me weak and sheathed his weapons and walked away. I had lost. That night I sat in my bedside, lost in my own fury and sadness. I stared out at the starry night, the waves of the ocean crashing against the shore. I drew my blade. I would not marry this man with no compassion. I would not be a servant in his household, never to traverse the world. I pointed my blade at my chest and plunged it deep into my own heart.
Hi, my name's Ren Folker, 300 years old. Chaotic, though no one really cares about that information. I have 3 giant claw marks in my back and teeth marks around my wrists for when I was inevitably murked by a giant beast creature. Don't really want to talk about that. I was born in Greenvale in the wilds of Eonyx, but I have no recollection of my birth parents. I was adopted at a young age by my father's Kalpos Ingraros Folkor. I had an adopted sister, though for some reason I can't remember what her name is. No religious ties at all. I was a very peculiar individual. Spent the first 18 years of my life alone, or so I thought. In the wilds of Eonyx, it's a very kill or be killed living, since most of the creatures are both mystical and malicious. I had no idea who my parents were or why I was left in the wilds to fend for myself, so I didn't have many interactions with other people, anyone or anything in general that wasn't trying to kill me. That was, of course, until I was found by a couple exploring, looking for ingredients. Me being very cautious and defensive, I tried to murder them both. Kalpos and Goros both could see that I was alone and immediately took it upon themselves to take me in. For a while, things were pretty difficult because I didn't really open up to the 2 of them. I mean, could you blame me? I don't really know them, and I've spent the first 18 years of my life not really dealing with anyone. Anyway, I started to let my walls down once I realized that they meant no harm and began to ease into the life that they provided for me, if you will. They were experts in espionage, teaching me all the ways of silence and stealth. They'd go throughout Greenvale, our village, and we would yield justice to the unruly sorts from the shadows, returning peace to the innocent and less fortunate they were heroes in my eyes, which made me want to emulate that. But I wasn't really too fond on the idea of interacting with other people besides my dad's. All that changed when my little sister came into the picture. Tifala. Now I remember. I think. We found her out in the wilds while we were out on a hunting expedition. She was clinging to her dead parents' bodies that were just murdered by a wild beast. Something inside me turned on, and I just knew I had to protect her and vowed to do whatever it took to take care of her and my family, my chosen family. Growing up, things seemed normal. We'd disguise ourselves and deal swift justice to wrongdoers, give back to the people in need. As I got older, I became more closed off to everybody besides my family, because everybody else sucks besides my family. Except for a certain someone. Sorry, reminiscing. A certain someone by the name of Pover Bastrop. I don't know what it was about him, but it just felt like we were meant to be. I never really spoke to anyone in the village besides my sister and my dad, but, and as regretfully as I say this out loud, my demeanor would definitely change whenever he would glide by, delivering messages throughout the village. I thought there was some connection there. We had a mutual interest, and when I went to go and tell him, I found out that he was engaged. I couldn't do anything about it, so I kind of left it alone, but I really wanted to tell him how I felt. One day I was going home from dealing with some petty pickpockets, and I heard a scream that I recognized as my sister. Without hesitation, I ran towards where she was screaming and immediately dealt with the man who was attacking my sister without any type of hesitation. It wasn't until the rage completely stopped and I made sure that she was okay that I realized it was Pover's fiance. Big mistake on my end. I took the body and my sister, and we went into the wilds and we went to go dispose of it. I made her swear that she wouldn't tell anybody of this, that I would eventually tell Pover myself. She could see how much I was really into him, and she always made fun of me for it, but she knew how much it's meant to me, so she promised she wouldn't say anything. And eventually I would tell him, or so I thought. I just couldn't get past seeing him moping around, being so distraught about his love being taken away from him, and the guilt washing over me knowing that I was the reason why he was gone. I just couldn't bring myself to tell him. I continued doing my feats of espionage, covert takedowns, even went off on my own for a while, using my skills outside to become an apex hunter. While out one day looking for some food for the family, I found myself in the woods and stumbled upon the area where I disposed of Pover's fiance's body. The downward spiral kind of hit. I went through waves of guilt and rage and sorrow, and just couldn't really deal with it. I tried to rationalize it myself and saying that it was for my sister's sake. I told myself that I was terrible for even doing that. I had no right to kill that man. My emotions got the better of me. I was completely losing it. And that was my ultimate downfall. See, in the wilds of Onyx, you have to always stay on alert, because even if you feel like you have the whole scope of what's going on, there's always something watching you. And sure enough, there was definitely something watching me the entire time. I was going through such an emotional turmoil that I strayed off the path, just trying to run from all the guilt and pain that I felt, that I almost nearly walked into the mouth of a giant beast that was there. It was camouflaged so well, I'm surprised I didn't see it. Had I not reacted when I did, probably would have died. I started to get my senses back, but they were still kind of dulled and frayed from me just being in emotional disarray. I tried to regain my composure. The beast lunged forward at me, and as I tried to escape from it, it clawed into my back. And as I'm laying there, bleeding out, all I can see is visions of my dad's laughing. My sister wanted me to pick her up, like I always did. Visions of Pover smiling at me. followed by the jaws of the beast closing over me. From what I know, the only thing that they found of my body was my hand that was left over. So that's my story. Or at least, that was my story. Because I'm back now, I think. Still a little confusing to me. But with this second out at life that I get, I'm not gonna waste it.
Hi, I'm Amaris Tureen. My friends call me Mari. I'm 249 years old, but as an elf, that makes me like 25 in human years. I'm very chaotic neutral. I was raised in District 3 of the Sylvan Woods. Unfortunately, the only thing I remember about my mother is her voice. I don't really know how I ended up at the Druid Sanctuary of Alarcon at approximately the age 8. And they never really disclosed any information. I have no known siblings or family members, and I'm currently a follower of the Church of Erica? I always forget how to pronounce it. Specifically the Demeter sect. I had one friend growing up. He was a bird of a bastard. We have the same passion for shiny things, and that's kind of what we bonded on. Other than that, it was pretty much just mentoring at the Druid Academy as I started excelling, and I did have a mentor that kind of ended up being like a mother figure. Occasionally I would go out and take some contracts and things for some extra cash or boredom, and my best friend would follow me because, well, as long as they got a cut of the loot, they didn't care. I really, there's a couple of important things that happened throughout my life. The arrival at the Druid Academy and kind of diving into those studies, and I was really excited when they offered me the fill-in mentorship. But all in all, I don't really think it's interesting of a life. I'm just a normal druid that likes to shapeshift. And I really like animals, and I don't like hurting them unless I absolutely have to. And my best friend's probably the closest thing to family that I actually know. He works under the apothecary at Larcon. We drink a lot. We fight over who's going to drink. Pay for the drinks. I really don't know what to say. We went out drinking, and we were partying with a few people at the sanctuary. I remember tackling them because I saw a shadow in the woods, and I walked to the woods, and that's it. I don't remember how I died, or even if I died. It's all kind of a blur.